Yo, what's up guys, the Anime Titan here, back at it again with another What If, and I'm here doing What If Naruto had Iron Sand release. I apologize for the long wait. I know this is disappointing to you guys, and I've just been trying to, dance my way around some of the more struggling and tempting things. So anyway, let's get into it. Last time we left off was at the end of the prelims, of which Naruto and most of his team made it through, if not all. I'm not gonna tell you guys because if you didn't watch last part, then you gotta go watch it. But so anyway, last time the prelims had ended and everybody's gearing up for the 1 month training, which they were all granted. So basically, we all know that I'm not gonna give into large amounts of detail in the 1 month training, all because it's not gonna be a large amount of significant things that he'll be learning. Mostly because if you look at it, there is nothing much for Gaara's team to learn. They've done a large amount of missions already, and they're almost on peak performance. So it doesn't really matter that they go through a 1 month training. It'll basically just be a touch up on skills. So I'm just gonna skim over what they did. Tamari would have increased her wind repertoire jutsu, meaning she'd have more jutsu at her disposal, as well as trying to increase her chakra capacity. Naruto would be focused on, creating more iron sand in a shorter time frame by drawing iron minerals from the ground itself. Conqueror, on the other hand, would be more focused on trying to manipulate more than more than 3 puppets at a time. During the month, he'd be able to get it up to 5, and if he really strains himself, he can manipulate 6 puppets. Gaara would be just Gaara. He would have gone through a bit of training, doing some taijutsu to ensure that he isn't caught completely defenseless whenever somebody does break through his sand barrier. But 90% of the time, it's a struggle for anybody to get near him. So basically, during the 1 month, Naruto would have also gone out on 2 to 3 dates with Tamari, just to get to know her better, and Tamari herself would have found that she's actually quite interested in Naruto, not just for helping her brother, but for Naruto as a person. He is kind, he's caring, and does a lot for people, even if he doesn't know them. He's always smiling, and that just makes Tamari feel warm inside. So let's get back into it. Into the semi-finals? Not even sure. Let's just get back to the tournament. So the first match would start off as a Kumo fodder up against Yugito. So it's Kumo versus Kumo. Yugito and the Kumo Nin would both head down to the arena, with Yugito standing on one side and the Kumo on the other. Shunoi Genma would hop down, asking if they're both ready, and both would reply with a curt but quick nod, before Hayato would say, begin, and jump back. Yugito would instantly make distance, while the Kumo fodder will flash through some hand signs trying to catch her off guard. Not God. So he'd fire a lightning style arc at Yugito, who would use her cat-like reflexes and avoid the strike. She would then quickly flash through hand signs of her own, elongating both her her fingernails and her toenails, before using her larger speed, her better speed and durability, to quickly get up close to the man before slashing at him 4 times. She would basically create a X on his chest with 2 of the strikes, while the other 4 would be aimed at the man's arms, trying to disable and cripple him. Not cripple, but disable him for the match. The man, however, would have seen this coming and would have quickly channeled lightning chakra into his arms, which would have caused Yugito to take a jolt of electricity for each arm that she had scratched. The man would quickly back up before flashing through some more hand signs, this time creating a lightning clone. The clone itself would be flashing through signs, while the original would also be flashing through the hand signs. He would then quickly create a lightning style lightning wire, well, or as I prefer to call it, live wire. Get it? Because it's live with electricity. Doesn't matter. So anyway, the two would quickly charge at Yugito, trying to wrap her up with the electrical current and trying to shock her into blissful unconsciousness. Yugito, however, would see this before she'd jump into the air, flashing through hand signs of her own, before spitting out burning hairballs. Mentally, she'd be yelling the technique, fire style, feline's fury, with the tiny fireballs heading straight towards her opponent. She'd quickly land back down before flashing through another set of hand signs, this time breathing out a large blue fireball, being the fire style Great Blue Fireball. Seeing as it's Matatabi, the Two-Tailed Jinchuriki, well, not the Two-Tailed Jinchuriki, but the Two-Tailed Beast, who is constantly made out of blue flames, I suggest or believe that it has its own personal jutsu repertoire. But anyway, that doesn't matter. The Kumo fodder would quickly be able to dodge the first and bail the second before he'd see Yukito once again appear right in front of him, delivering a devastating kick to his stomach, sending him sprawling backwards. Before he could even get back onto his feet though, Yukito would be flashing through another set of hand signs, this time using a lightning jutsu, which I personally call lightning style paralysis effect. It's one of my own personal jutsu. Basically, you let out a low frequency, but a low current of electricity throughout your entire body before charging the opponent and then zapping him into blissful unconsciousness. Or if you don't have enough chakra, the paralysis, it just paralyzes you by tensing your muscles. She would have quickly made it out to the man before electrocuting him, winning her the match. So anyway, the next match would then be Sai up against Shikamaru. So basically, the way I see it is that Shikamaru would be Shikamaru. He tried to worm his way out, but Ino would end up kicking Shikamaru over the balcony, with Sai waiting downstairs in the arena already. I'm gonna give y'all a bit to listen to this voice. Give me a second. Okay, so anyway, Shikamaru would have fallen flat onto the ground before Genma would start the match. Sai would immediately start scribbling down drawings of an ink lions and an ink bird, which he would personally use to get up off of the ground. Shikamaru would see the lions incoming and avoid them as best he can before cutting them up. Shikamaru, however, would then use his shadow paralysis jutsu to get to the bird, to take over the bird's shadow, causing the bird to stop mid-air and plummet to the ground. Sai would jump over the bird just in time to land in front of Shikamaru, with Shikamaru's shadow stretching outwards, catching Sai. Unfortunately for Shikamaru, who uses his strategies like this, he did not see Sai appearing behind him, pointing the tip of the edge of a tanto to his neck. Shikamaru would then surrender, saying that he had been bested. Most of the crowd would be shocked until Sai himself, not the Sai that was behind Shikamaru, but the Sai that was caught by the shadow, would turn into a puddle of ink. Next match is between Fu and Dearest Grass Fodder. Hey yo, I'm sorry, but this was just random. It looks like I'm having people fighting people. But anyway, the way I see it, Fu using her special technique, being able to fly, as well as being capable of manipulating string, would be avoiding her opponent's, I'm guessing, basically limited water jutsu for a while, before she'd eventually wrap him up in some string, tying him down. Next up, we have Naruto up against dear old Gaara. Some of y'all are gonna hate me for this, but you have to look at it my way. Naruto and Gaara would slowly make their way downstairs, with the crowd going nuts. Because they have now current 2 magnet release wielders getting ready to decimate the arena. When both boys would arrive at the bottom, Naruto's cloak would start shifting carefully around him, seeming to form a more dense and protective shell. Gaara, on the other hand, would just be standing calmly, staring at Naruto. Genma would begin the match, and then jump away, before Naruto and Gaara would actually just do nothing. Gaara would continue to look at Naruto, with Naruto doing the same. Gaara would then crack a small smile, saying, "Let's make this a good match, brother." Because if y'all don't know, technically Naruto's going to be mirroring Temari, and he does treat Gaara like a brother in general. Naruto would smile before he'd nod and then use his magnet release to quickly back up. His magnet release to quickly back as far away from Gaara as possible. Gaara would have smiled seeing that Naruto is doing this before he would back up himself and start creating some sand shuriken. Naruto would be creating kunai from the iron sand before he'd launch a barrage at Gaara, whose sand would just happen to catch it. Gaara himself would be launching the shuriken, which would basically embed itself in Naruto's iron sand before it would dissolve. The two would immediately start ripping each other's magnet release to shreds, with Gaara using his sand against Naruto's magnet release, and Naruto using his iron sand to basically saturate Gaara's sand. Within about 2 to 3 minutes, Naruto and Gaara would have lost a significant portion of both their iron and regular sand, with the two smiling at each other. Naruto would have lost half his cloak, and Gaara's gourd would be mostly empty at this point. Naruto would smile at Gaara before telling him that they should probably do this in a more battle-orientated way, instead of just sticking long range. Gaara would nod before the both of them would flash through hand signs, with Naruto using a Kei's no Yaiba or a wind blade, and Gaara just shooting out wind bullets. Naruto would do his best to cut the wind bullets to shreds, with one nicking him every now and then. He'd continue to charge at Gaara, who would then release another massive wind bullet at Naruto, before Naruto would cut it in half, and then continue his sprint towards Gaara. Gaara would take this opportunity and flash through some hand signs, yelling, "Wind style," echoing of the gods, before he'd clap his hands together, releasing a large gust of wind, as well as an echo that would cause Naruto some disorientation, as well as knocking him back. Gaara would then finally launch his sand at Naruto once more, this time gripping to the last of Naruto's iron sand, completely stripping him of his iron sand cloak, leaving Naruto to defend himself on the wall. Naruto would smile before he'd flash through some hand signs, yelling, "Wind style," slipstream, before he'd encase his body in a basically shell of wind. Naruto would use this to his advantage, bursting off at high speeds, avoiding Gaara's sand that was coming at him. Gaara would be struggling to keep up with Naruto, who would then come at Gaara, trying to land a punch, but the sand would just barely be able to catch up in time. Naruto would jump back and smile before he'd release a wind style tornado. It would basically create a small twister in the center of the arena, sucking up all of Gaara's sand, leaving Gaara almost completely defenseless. This is when Naruto would charge in once more, and Gaara and Naruto would begin a all-out hand-to-hand frenzy. Naruto would try to throw a punch, but Gaara would barely be able to block it, with Gaara retaliating with a kick to Naruto's side, which he would jump over. Naruto would then try a axe kick while he's still mid-air, with Gaara quickly jumping back before charging in once more, trying to deliver a devastating punch to Naruto's stomach. Naruto would see it coming, however, and gently redirect Gaara's fist away from him, while he would try to give Gaara a knee in the stomach. Gaara, however, would see this and quickly raise his own knee to counter Naruto's incoming knee before the both of them would stop. Naruto would jump back once more before charging Gaara again, this time with a kunai in hand, with Gaara doing the same. The two would then quickly release unrelenting slashes between each other, with the clangs of metal being heard throughout the arena. Everybody would be watching at the spectacle that these two gentlemen would be putting on, mostly the competitors, seeing as these boys weren't just good at their Kekkei Genkai, they were actually physical fighters. Gaara here, however, would be channeling just a small minuscule amount of Shikaku's chakra, getting him the upper hand on Naruto in terms of speed. Naruto would see this and smile, as he'd quickly back away, before releasing a secondary kunai into his hand and charging at Gaara once more. The clash would continue for a little bit, with Naruto getting a larger amount of nicks across his body, 90% of them being on his upper arms and forearms, with just 2 to 3 on his torso. Gaara, however, would be stuck with 2 to 4 nicks, 2 of them on his one forearm, 1 of them on the torso, and the other on his cheek. Naruto would smile before he'd step back and raise his hand, saying loudly that, "I forfeit." Gaara would look at him incredulously before Naruto would then state, "Gaara, my chakra levels are running low, and you have clearly bested me at this point in time." Because if you guys don't remember, Naruto is still using Wind Style Slip 3. So Naruto would forfeit before he'd give about to Gaara, and both of them would head out back to the contestants booth. Everybody would look at him just completely and utterly shocked, while the Sand siblings would smile. So basically, here's what's going to happen next. We have Hinata going up against Dearest Temari. Temari would, I'm sorry to say, I absolutely love Hinata. She's my first and ever waifu. I cared about her a whole lot. But the way I see it, Hinata's at a massive disadvantage in this one, seeing as Temari's a wind user. Hinata would be doing her best to constantly get in close, with Temari using her battle fan as a shield, while trying to dance her way around Hinata. Eventually Hinata would tire herself out, before Temari would jump back, releasing a Wind Style Cyclone Jutsu, basically the same as Naruto's Wind Style Tornado, only difference being that Temari's is a smaller and less concentrated version. Hinata would end up being flung into the air, and then caught by Temari, and then gently put down on the ground, with Hinata unable to continue. Next up, we have Shino up against our oldest and best Neji. Unfortunately, the way I see it, we got old man Shino running up against Neji. So, Shino would try to release his bugs, with Neji constantly using the barrage of, the 8 trigram 64 palms, destroying multiple bugs, causing Shino to think more cautiously. Shino would swarm Neji carefully, seeing as the 8 trigram 64 bombs can only be, aimed in a single direction, and Neji of course doesn't have Hinata's flexibility. So Shino's bugs would surround Neji, and Shino himself would take up, perch between the bugs to ensure better command. Neji, however, the bugs would quickly converge on Neji, with Neji using the 8 trigrams rotation, or Hakusho Kaiten. So Neji would then knock the bugs back considerably, even if they did drain some of his chakra, before he'd make it to Shino, delivering quick strikes at his Tenketsu, as well as knocking Shino out in the progress. Shino's bugs would be in a disorientated state, all just hovering in the air, before Shino's father, Shibi, would come down and direct the bugs back to Shino, and then have him taken to the medical ward. Next up is the semi-finals. Not the semi-finals, yeah, the semi-finals, sorry. So, in that one, we now have Sai going up against Yugito Ni. Sai would try his best against Yugito, constantly spamming out his ink piece, with Yugito using clones, Debaka exploding clones. Basically, Sai would attack and the clones would explode, destroying Sai's ink, with Yugito launching fireballs, as well as some more feline fury, as well as releasing some more lightning jutsu, such as the lightning arc that she herself knows, and thunderbolt. Eventually, Sai, however, would pull through, using more ink beast to overwhelm Yugito, as well as a suppression tag that he ended up drawing. After that, we have dear old Gara up against Fu. Fu herself would be trying to would go all out from the start, using some of her Biju's chakra, starting to fly around. Gara would see this, as well as using his sand in a defensive manner, as Fu would fly around trying to land attacks, but the sand would be blocking Gara. Fu would try to use her web, but the sand would again catch this before actually grabbing onto the web and pulling Fu in. Fu wouldn't be expecting this, seeing as she hasn't been overpowered yet, so when the spiderweb is pulled in, she is immediately pulled in with it, and Gara stands around Fu, encasing her, causing Fu to lose that match. And now for those of you that really want to know, we've got a 3-pronged battle coming up next. We have Neji running up against Sasuke, running up against Temari. So basically, the way I see this going, Sasuke and Neji would target Temari first, with Temari unfortunately losing this, seeing as she'd be occupied with either Neji or Sasuke, and then the other would come around back and take her out. The way I see it happening, Sasuke would charge up front, with Neji sneaking behind her, and then delivering a devastating attack, causing her to lose control of her Tenkaichi and thus her jutsu. Temari would forfeit, seeing that she is outgunned and outnumbered. Not outnumbered. Oh yeah, I forgot to do the last match of the other one, sorry. The last match was Grass Fodder versus Sasuke. You can already see how that goes. Sasuke wins because of the limited amount of jutsu, as well as increased taijutsu performance. So anyway, I just told you about the 3-way match. Now we get back to the 3-way match. It would be Sasuke against Neji now, and the two would charge at each other. Neji would do his very damn best to try to get through to Uchiha Sasuke, but wouldn't, seeing as Sasuke's Sharingan would allow him to see Neji's, incoming and chakra fluxes, which means he can easily avoid Neji's a trigram 64 palms. Sasuke would launch a fireball at Neji, which Neji wouldn't be able to dodge, and would use Kaiten, however not knowing that Sasuke had actually intended him to do that, causing Neji to heat up on the inside, with Sasuke supplying more and more fireballs, eventually giving Neji heat stroke, causing him to, tap out. So, for the final, it will be a 3-way match once more. Gara Sasuke. The match would be about to start before feathers would be falling from the sky due to some odd genjutsu. Most of the shinobi would instantly dispel it before they'd hear large explosions rocking the area. That's when most of them would jump up onto the roof of the stadium before they'd see massive snakes coming from the gates of Konoha. They would rush through with Sarutobi and Kei's Cage standing side by side, getting ready to join the fray, when out of nowhere, Orochimaru would appear with 4 ninja. These 4 ninja would be the Sound 4, who would immediately erect a barrier, locking in both Sarutobi, Rasa, and Orochimaru. Orochimaru wouldn't be pleased, seeing as Rasa was in there, but he'd take this as his chance to get revenge on Rasa for denying him. The fight between the cages would go, terrible, but that's not what we're here for. Gara would eventually make his way to the gate alongside Naruto, with Gara then transforming into his full Shukaku form. No, he's not letting Shukaku control him. Y'all remember how Gara quite literally turned into a massive Shikaku, and then he was just like a tiny ass, ugly looking pimple on the head of the beast. Yeah, that's what's up right now. So Shikaku would be slamming the summonings around, with one of them actually, finding a way behind Shikaku's guard, with it being about to attack, before Naruto would unleash a barrage of iron sand coming from the side. People would look up to see Naruto standing on a construct of iron sand, looking like a black dragon. The dragon would land beside Shikaku, towering at only 3/4 of the size. Naruto would smile at Gaara, telling him that he has nothing to worry about, and that his chakra reserve should be able to handle this for a solid 3 minutes before he runs out. Gaara would nod as the two would quickly start ripping through the snakes, as well as the incoming Oto Nin. The Leaf Nin would be helping out with this as well. Before long, however, Naruto's chakra would have run out, and the black sand would have immediately fallen to the ground. Naruto himself would barely be floating down, with just the small amount of chakra he has left, before opening up the storage scroll that he had, sealing all the black sand that he had used away once more. Gaara, however, would constantly be barraging the incoming Oto forces with sand bullets as well as sand spears. The invasion would have been cut short before it actually properly started, with the only difference being that Orochimaru was wounded quite a bit more, Hiruzen is still alive, and Rasa had ripped off Orochimaru's arm using gold dust. As for the Hokage, the reanimated Hokage, Rasa had used his gold dust to subdue both of them, seeing as, you can't really bring back the fourth, can you? But so anyway, the invasion would end there, and it would take about a week for everything to get back to normal, plus minus. Jiraiya would still return, and he would still go to Getsunade. This is, however, where we're going to get into the 3-year training arc, but I will open that arc up for you guys next time. So let's put it this way. Naruto heads back with his team to Suna, where they eventually reach Suna. They get the day off. The next morning they're called into the Cage's tower with Rasa with Rasa telling them that they all know Chunin. Konkuro and Temari showed that they could do well under pressure, but they still need some experience, so they're not Chunin. They are Togebetsu Chunin, which means special Chunin. They have the qualifications of a Chunin, but they need more experience. And then he would turn to Naruto and Gaara, giving them each a solid Chunin flak jacket. He would then tell them that they are to remain as a squad, that being the Chunin squad. Naruto and Gaara would nod before they thank the Cage, and then just head off to celebrate. So that's where I'm going to be cutting this off. Next time we're coming back after the 3-year time skip. Anime Titan signing out. Peace.